Welcome to the Holy Fool podcast. Holy Fool is a nonprofit community of musicians and patrons who strive to hold all things in common. We are based in the Denver area in Colorado. Our main goal is to support working musicians, especially those musicians that struggle financially. You can think about us a little bit like a musicians guild or a musicians mutual aid group, but we really want to build a healthy and positive scene here in Denver, Colorado, and then also inspire other scenes across the country and the world to do the same. So I'm really excited to have my buddy, Will Lindsay. Will, you may know from such independent rock bands as Caracara. Will also has a new wonderful project called Fireworks in Indiana. Will, I just really want to thank you for being a buddy in the music scene. And I really want to thank you for the music that you make. Caracara was one of those bands that when I first heard y'all 2021 or 2022 abouts,
Wow.
I was just kind of blown away by the bravery to be in a scene that's made up by a lot of twinkly emo tropes, and you were doing exactly the sort of songs that you wanted to do. I just love your songwriting, man, and I love your band Caracara and the musicianship that y'all have, and I really am just grateful for the music you make, so thanks for doing it, man.
Thank you. No problem. Uh,
Don't
yeah,
mention it.
yeah, no, I think it's always been interesting to, like, through the years being in Caracara, it's always been interesting the bands that we, just because of the scene that we came out of in Philadelphia and like a lot of folks that we're friends with through music, of course, but just through being around and in the scene and in a lot of cases, like working at the same restaurants or whatever random side jobs, like we just know a lot of people in the scene. And as musicians, as songwriters, like I feel like we never really set out to be part of any particular scene. So it's always interesting when people hear us as a sort of like sounding unique amongst a group. Like that's always fun for me to hear, because like we never, I guess, like super identified with that group in the first place. I think that like some of our closest friends were in a band a long time ago called Modern Baseball, and Jake Ewald from that band produced our first record. So I feel like that kind of put us in a mental zone for people in a way that like we really appreciate and we've gotten a lot of opportunities from. But I appreciate y'all for like listening to it with an open mind and like getting, just getting more out of it than like another twinkly Philly band, No shade to Philly twinkly bands. Don't, don't
Real.
at me, but
That's great, man. How would you, I know genre is always a difficult thing to articulate, especially when music is a set of intuitive choices that you make, right? But how would you, both projects that you're in, Caracara and Buying Fireworks, how would you describe your songs to someone who's never heard your music before?
I think especially over the last few years, as I think genre has gone further out the window than it ever sort of, I don't know, it's like in the era of like hyper niche and like super targeted information, I sort of feel like allegiance to genre is less relevant than ever. So I've really been just leaning back on like indie punk. I think that like that's weirdly descriptive. Like even though like most punk music, most emo music, most twinkly music, what have you, is indie by nature, I think that indie is one of those words that's really like lost its definition in a good way, in a helpful way. I think it just signals that it's weird to use indie as a modifier to indicate that we're writing maybe like poppier songs, because that's, I think, sort of antithetical to where the term comes from, looking back to like indie rock from like the late 80s or the 90s or whenever that term rose to prominence on college radio. But now it feels like to call ourselves like indie punk just sort of separates us a bit from pop punk and a bit from emo and a bit from post rock and a bit from like heavier genres, all of which are hugely influential to us and all of which we try and signify at one moment or another. But yeah, I just think like indie punk has been a helpful modifier. And for Buying Fireworks in Indiana, I'm pulling the same shenanigan. It's just indie electronic, baby. Hey.
Hey,
um Dude, I love your band because you're pulling together a bunch of different kinds of music that I really, really enjoy. I have a visceral memory of seeing you guys for the first time at the Marquee in Denver, Colorado.
the Delta Sleep.
Yeah, the Delta Sleep
Tour.
Tour. Yes. And you guys played Better, which is one of my favorite songs from y'all.
Lips were painted cherry red, and there are fossils in my head. You were young and full of dread, Bathsheba of the strip mall said. We knew vampires in our time, cutting in the bathroom line, looking bored with rolling eyes and pharmaceutically inclined. Latchkey love and stolen pills, looking for a cheaper thrill. Retro-fitted Greek myths will, and in your head, daffodil. We could not have seen such light in your hazy basement eyes. Headphones in their stored leather. Ask me why I care. I thought you knew me better, 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 better than that. You will be missed when
And the crowd was mostly like bobbing their heads sort of into it, and the Spirit of God took me in that moment. I started slamming into people, and by the end of the song there was like pure chaos in that room, which feels it's good to me as like a big guy and an extrovert to like be able to shove people around a little bit in a socially acceptable sort of way. But what I love about especially that EP that Better is on is that you're doing so many different kinds of indie rock, and you're pulling together a real host of different influences. Like the bridge or the end of Better is almost a post-rock song to me structurally, right? It's got really, really like soaring guitars, huge ass drums. So I don't really have a question attached to that. I just like love I love that song and that memory. But what thoughts do you have on some of that
Well,
stuff?
I just gotta say first and foremost, like, and y'all are a part of this. A place for owls. Like all the folks in your band and your associated and peripheral family members and various children. They're all included in this. Like of all shows I could pick for someone to see us for the first time, ideally it would have been one of the shows on the Delta Sleep Tour or any given show in Denver, because Denver has always been insanely good to us. Like even before the pandemic, when we did our first full US, like totally DIY, we headlined a show in Denver at the Walnut Room.
Mm-hmm. I remember, rest in peace, I remember the Walnut Room.
Yeah, they had good pizza. I don't know what happened, but Denver has always just been like really, really good to us. And then the Delta Sleep Tour, we were in anticipation of that tour. We were a little curious as to like how we would be received. You know, we were all Delta Sleep fans, but we sort of, I guess, lumped them in as just like a math rock band. And we were like, okay, our music's sort of complicated, I guess, but I'm not sure if this is going to like scratch that itch for people. And what we really found across that, like through that whole tour across the whole country, is Delta Sleep has the best, some of the most diverse fans. Like there are people there who are into the most complicated music imaginable. And there are also people who are like jam band folks and everywhere in between. And we just like were blown away. There was a line around the block almost every date of that show before doors. Everybody watched every opening band. We were direct support and there were local openers for most of the shows. Everyone watched everybody. Like merch for us was outrageous on that tour. I think that night is still the best merch night we've ever had.
We were running out of stuff.
Yeah, it was too early to be running out of stuff too. That was like the end of week 1. We were not prepared for that. But what you're saying about Better sort of transitioning through genre spaces and ultimately going into like a post-rock zone, we really love the bring it down to a whisper and then take it up slowly, even bigger than we had gone before.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that resonated well in Denver, and it resonates well with like Delta Sleep fans. Like everybody loves a big build, and I don't know if it's because Denver's also a big like dubstep town, but like y'all love a drop.
We do.
That's true.
And we got drops, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so glad that was the first show you came to.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that was a blast. And like again, like Denver's always just been so good to us. I love Denver so much.
That's great, man. So I want to ask a little bit about your songwriting process. Well, I also want to ask about Buying Fireworks, because this is also what seems like to me, who mostly I've listened to Caracara stuff. This seems like it's very much you and it sounds like you, but it feels like an addition, possibly a departure. Tell me a little bit about like why you were attracted to doing this sort of drum and bliss style music.
Yeah, I have always loved electronic music, and Caracara, we all have a love for like different types of electronic music, and we've ventured into those waters a couple times. We have a song called Color Glut, which was kind of my first attempt at combining some like UKG two-step swung drums with like heavier guitars, distorted guitars. When I wrote that riff to that beat, I had just recently saw My Bloody Valentine in Philly, and I was just on this trip of like diving into super noisy, distorted music, but also kind of these rave era stuff. And there's like a lot of overlap. Back in the day, there was much more overlap between electronic music and punk music than there is now, I think. And to me, they've never felt that dissimilar. Like when I'm talking about electronic music, I'm not talking about like main room stuff you would call like EDM. I'm talking about like a million different sort of peripheral genres, or, you know, I guess lesser known underground movements, but there's always been so much shared DNA. Punk and emo have DIY spaces and DIY shows, and, you know, electronic music has like underground raves and sort of like remote location shows and sound installations and like all kinds of just crazy stuff. I have been listening to electronic music myself like the whole time, all through the Caracara years, and it wasn't until the pandemic and Caracara couldn't tour, and I was out in California at the time. My wife was going to grad school, and I was just roasting coffee and hanging out in a windowless garage, like on YouTube, trying to learn all of the aspects of production that I had never taken the time to learn for myself. And that just happened to be at a time when some of my favorite electronic producers, most crucially this duo called Disclosure, they just were going on I didn't know this at the time because I literally knew nothing about the internet back then, but they were going on Twitch. I was catching the recordings on YouTube, but they were just like opening up their Logic sessions and giving away all their production secrets. And
So cool.
through Disclosure and through a handful of other folks on YouTube, I really just like put in hundreds of hours in the garage, like learning how to properly record and produce and make this sort of specific combination of drum machines and guitars that has been like living in my head for years, but I was always relying on collaboration to ultimately articulate it. Whether that was like the song Harsh Light, it's a Caracara song, or Punch Our Train, also a Caracara song. Like, we've taken stabs at this, but it's always been a collaborative thing, and it's always been more firmly planted in like the world of Caracara music. Whereas what I'm trying to accomplish is bringing a lot of those aspects over, but keeping it still like kind of dance floor ready, still centering kick and bass and dialing in like synth sounds in a way that doesn't really suit like what we have always done as a group. And yeah, so it really started as like just me kind of making the best of an enormous amount of free time that the pandemic provided. And then after Caracara got loads of amazing opportunities following our second record, New Preoccupations, I got just an increasingly kind of clear vision of how much money we were able to make as a group, like how expensive it was to do things, how sort of fully committed we all need to be to kind of make anything happen. You know, Caracara can do okay as long as we're like on a full US, but we're not really set up to like fill in those gaps in between eras, kind of. And also writing that second record, I sort of left it all on the court with that one. Like that was a very narrative record for me. And we're still writing and recording new music, but we're not really thinking in that like long form narrative way like we used to. Coming out of the pandemic, we all landed in our own sort of separate spots with this. And like, again, we're still active. We're still doing stuff, but I am obsessed with this shit. Like, I cannot not do music. I have to find a way to do it all the time. And so through learning to produce, I was able to find some opportunities doing some film scoring. I just turned in my first like feature film score literally last
Congrats,
week.
that's awesome.
Thank you. Very exciting. That one's called Local Motives. It's a climate change road trip buddy doc. It's
Oh, man.
It's cool.
Sounds incredible.
And we just submitted to our first festival a couple days ago. And then I am working on this other feature film that like recently just got actual distribution, which is crazy. That one's still very much in production, and I can't really like say a whole lot about it. Like,
Sure.
a little bit because I'm not allowed, mostly because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But through that and through making dance music on my own and finding ways to like make engaging music content for platforms that like actually care about the creators making stuff on them. I sort of, as I mentioned earlier, during the pandemic, I kind of like fell in love with YouTube and learned so much on there that I just sort of did the math for myself and was like, why wouldn't I try being on there? Like, I don't know how to make videos yet, but I learned how to do everything else on here. So why don't I like learn how to do some stuff and then show people how to do some stuff on here? Because it's a platform that's more set up to support small creators, small artists. And I've found so much good music on there that I was like, let me just try and build a presence there too. So Buying Fireworks in Indiana and writing for Caracara, writing and producing for film, it's all part of me just trying desperately to do this all the time.
Yeah.
Because I did try the whole, like, go on tour once or twice a year and like work a job that is unrelated to music. Great job, great folks, had a great time. But ultimately, my brain is just noisy. It just wants to be making noise and recording noise and shaping noise into something people like. It wants to be doing that all the time. And so I'm either restless at a job or I'm just hustling, trying to make this happen, you know?
Yeah.
So
Feel that.
Dude, that's so good. There's I want to follow up on two things from what you've been talking about. One is there's this theme of I have to. I have a compulsion to. I like need to make music. It's just a necessary thing for me personally. I want to dig into that. And then also one of the things that I found just talking to musicians of all scale, right? So total local band. We've never gone on tour, all the way up to my friends that are like in rock bands full time. Their money stuff and the day job stuff or the side hustle stuff is always the thing that sort of makes or breaks your whole life, and then either tees you up to be able to create music the way that you feel drawn to and you have the compulsion to, or it's the thing that just, you know, kind of messes everything up, and then it's out of whack, and then you sort of implode as a human being before you are able to make the next record or the next song or whatever. Think I want to dig into the work stuff a little bit first. So tell me a little bit more about the sort of day jobs you've had or like side hustle jobs you've had, and like what really for you as a musician who just wants to do it and make a go at it or whatever that means, what would be the dream sort of like work job balance that you could sort of pull together?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where to start with the side jobs. I've done some crazy stuff, man. I worked in the service industry in Philly for a lot of years, and I worked at a couple restaurants, had a lot of fun, like good jobs, but it was always kind of touch and go, like, you know, sort of a classic, like dude in a touring band at like super hip spots in a particular neighborhood. Like,
Right.
and then in the last couple years I was in Philly, I got a job at this place called Urban Axes. It was like an axe throwing facility, and
Nice.
I became an axe throwing coach,
Let's go.
and I did a lot of like construction and maintenance there as well. But
Nice.
mainly I was like coaching like groups of like 25 drunk Comcast employees, like teaching them how to throw axes. And it was a cool gig, but it was weirdly like not that flexible. Like, and so I started working this other job in addition to that at this place called Material Culture. It was an exotic goods and foreign antiquities importer and auction house. I was doing a lot of like unlicensed forklift driving. I was mostly just interacting with rugs, like rugs, antique rugs from all over the world. I got pretty jacked because I was just like unrolling for photos and then rolling and moving like 120-pound.
Rugs are heavy.
They're very heavy and they're so dusty, and they like if you move 1,000 of them, they kind of sand off your fingertips in a very particular way. And it was a cool job. I got to see like I got to meet and interact with like a lot of different types of people. I got to see like a side of New York City that I don't think people get to see. Like we were coming up from Philly all the time to do deliveries and pickups, and so I've been to like the Christie's auction house maximum security like storage facility in Red Hook with like, it's like a 6-story building with no windows and 4-foot concrete walls that can withstand a bomb. Like there's hundreds of millions of dollars of like crazy stuff in there. I got to go to like 9th floor walk-ups I think in Hell's Kitchen, where there were these old Persian men in there, like probably in their 80s, who were the most agile dudes I have ever seen. They were literally like crawling, running laps, running up and down these piles of rugs, like putting me to shame. And it was just cool to sort of see through like rugs in particular, like imported goods, like people who have an interest in sort of going to great lengths to find specific stuff from all over the world. Like I really did get to have some cool experiences, cool conversations, and see a lot of cool spaces. But I was like either hammered or hungover for every moment of both of these jobs, to be honest with you. Like I was really like sort of, I guess, like trying to pour my own fuel on my like lack of dopamine serotonin fire, because like Caracara was kind of busy, but we were really just getting started, and we were doing like a lot of sort of DIY stuff here and there in Philly, but I just wasn't really satiated and satisfied. And I was in this party culture when I wasn't at work, and all of my coworkers everywhere were also in that same stew. So it was just like total focus on that all the time. Then I moved to California, started working in coffee. I got sober a couple months before the pandemic hit.
Hell of a time to quit alcohol,
Yeah,
man.
for real.
You know, I got so lucky. I really did get like incredibly lucky because I stopped on January 5th, 2020, and I was able to get over the hump by the time lockdown started. And I think that like I was kind of like isolated, hadn't really met that many people in California yet. So there weren't a lot of opportunities to go out early in that year anyway. And it was just a good time for me to kind of like step back and simmer down a bit. And then everyone in the world had to step back and simmer down a bit. And I was like, oh, okay, this is great. Cause like if I wasn't already over the hump, I would absolutely drink
Yeah.
myself to death
Yeah,
immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful looking back on that time for real because I was extremely anxious about what was going to happen with Caracara. We were set up to be like pretty busy in 2020. We were going to do our first full length with Will Yip, and that was in question for a little while. Like, are we going to be able to tour now? Are we going to be able to tour ever again? These were all things that like when I was drinking, I just wouldn't have been able to deal with this like mentally, but I had already started to get to a place where I'm like, well, I did like one hard thing this year, so I can like keep that going. And, you know, I don't want this to sound wrong, but like it was almost easier that like I was suffering along with everyone else. You know, it was
Yeah.
there was no room for an ounce of self-pity.
Yeah.
And I was able to see that freshly and with like sober eyes because shit was hitting the fan so hard everywhere, you know? And during that time, I got a really cool job at this coffee company called Captain and Stoker, where we're living in California. Met a lot of really cool people there, and like I got hired at the same time as a bunch of like 19-year-old kids, and I was 30 at the time for reference. And 30 and coming off of like nearly a decade of Philadelphia service industry work. So I was ready to work. I was ready to outwork these kids.
Yeah.
I was ready to like hustle everybody, you know, and so I was able to like move up there pretty quick and got opportunities in roasting and production and met some really cool people that I'm really close with still and talk to all the time. That job was, I think, the most helpful for me in all of these because it was like everything I imagined the perfect side job would be. I was even working at that job like when we were on tour with Delta Sleep. My boss, Tyler, was the coolest dude. He would let me do like sales calls all over the country for our wholesale program. I would just pop into multi-roasters and cafes around the country. Like I would hit 3 or 4 per city and try and sell them our coffee. And he let me like stay on part-time while we were on tour. And he let me like go on tour whenever I needed to. They were the best. They did everything you could ask an employer to do, like everything an artist could hope for. And I was still just, my gears were spinning all day long. I was just feeling like I need to be doing more music than I am, you know? All the time.
Even on tour, you felt that?
Not on tour. When I'm on tour, I feel like totally at peace. That lifestyle like really, really suits me. And I think especially since getting sober, because like I have so much energy for it now that I didn't used to have. Like when we used to tour, I would be hungover literally for the number of days that we were on tour. Just that was the number of like terrible hangovers that was impending. And since getting sober, I look back on those times and not only do I still love being on tour, but I have this extra appreciation for it because like I almost didn't want to do it anymore. Like at the end of my drinking career, like I had a panic attack on tour. Like right before we played the show in Austin, I almost didn't play. And then like kind of got my shit together and was like, yo, I'm going to be ready for the next tour. And then COVID was like, haha, like no tours for anyone. And and by the time that we got to do it again, I'm so overcome with gratitude that like anyone would come listen to Caracara or whatever. Like I also play in this band called Steady Hands. We did a week on tour last fall. Anytime that I'm traveling to do music, I'm just like overwhelmed with gratitude, and I feel very in my element. Like I have the energy for it. I have like undying social battery when I'm on the road. Like I'm always down for like the merch table conversations. I'm always down for the hangs with other bands. Like just like love it so much. And so part of what I'm trying to do with this new project, Buying Fireworks in Indiana, is sort of reallocate that energy and see like, okay, what might traveling to do music look like in a different context than the touring that I'm used to? So like DJs travel in a certain way. They do it differently than bands do. Producers and composers also often travel, whether it's for collaboration or just for fuel in the tank, getting inspiration. But like there's always sort of travel associated with art. It's just like I'm sort of more trying to like get a little more abstract and think like, what is a more sustainable way of doing this than like having a group of 4 people need to collectively find the exact same month off of work and then drive a van that seems determined to die as many times per tour as possible. Like what other versions of this exist? Not because I don't want to do that anymore, more because I want to do that more than I have opportunities to do that. So it's like, let me just find my own version of that. Let me find my own thing. And with my new project, travel is a huge part of it. Well, I'm hoping to make it a huge part of it, but it's much more in the lane of collaboration. It's like, let me go check out somebody else's scene, somebody else's setup, somebody else's life, work on a song with them while I'm there, but also like talk to them, go to a show with them, maybe go to a show they're playing, maybe go to just like a local DIY hang that is part of their life, whatever it is. Like, let me explore their world just for a little bit. Like, we don't need to intertwine our lives for 18 months and make a 12-track record together. We could just make a single, have a super fun weekend. And as I was sort of saying earlier, it's like, instead of relying on the economics of show after show after show, guarantee or door deal, or just like fingers crossed at the merch table, like hope we can make this work. What if instead I'm able to package a sort of broader range of content from that travel experience and then monetize that in a different way that isn't so reliant on unpredictable factors, if that makes sense. So that brings me back to like what I was saying earlier about like YouTube and how I feel YouTube is just a better, more predictable place for like smaller artists or creatives to try and build a platform, because there's like a relative permanence to the content there. Like, I don't know about y'all, but like I have YouTube videos that I'll still watch that are like 10 years old, 15 years old.
Yeah.
If I wanted to find an Instagram post from a year ago, like I'm digging. And like TikTok, like it does stuff even like, you know, everything moves so fast. And like, I'm glad people are discovering stuff wherever they're discovering it. But I have found that like the audiences that seem to exist on YouTube are just enthusiasts. Like it's where the nerds are at for real. And I know that because I'm there and I'm a nerd, dude.
Totally. There's like an archive quality to it.
Yeah. I think by trying to contribute to that archive and trying to just find different ways to package the experience of making music and like share it with people beyond just a song that goes on a playlist. Like maybe it's a song with a supplemental like mini documentary about like this artist in this city that I've never been to before who built their own studio and like does this cool weird thing. That's all something that I believe like people might want to see.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to make it for them. And if I get to travel to do that,
Yeah.
that's cool. Like that just feels like just a different kind of spin on tour, but also much more sustainable and like parsed out and sort of like one-off mentality with far lower stakes. And like worst case scenario, I get to make a fun single with somebody and I take a little weekend vacation to somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't have to put my life at large on hold to make these moves, you know?
So does that coincide then with a day job or a robust day job? Like, what are you thinking? Because, you know, I'm hearing find a platform that you can build a legit community around the stuff that you're doing, the work that you're making, and God willing, monetize that either through what, YouTube ads, or like, are you thinking like Patreon stuff too? But then does that hold hands with some sort of day job that you're working at home then?
Yeah, so I'm trying to just bring it all under sort of one umbrella. I am not by any means trying to suggest that it's easy to build like a monetizable YouTube channel.
Yeah.
While doing this, I've also gotten into like writing. I write like narrative long form, and I also do like a weekly music recommendations newsletter under Buying Fireworks in Indiana. And my newsletter has a premium tier, so it's sort of like a Patreon type thing, and I give like early access to new music. But I also just do like weekly songs, like just sharing music with people, little blurbs. And this is something that I've sort of found is like, while it's nowhere near like, you know, the amount of money that like Caracara can make doing a one-off show, like I've only put out one single this year and I've been doing this for a couple months, and I've already been able to grow the premium subscriber base to a level where I can see a version of this after a year or so more of growth where it like it's enough money to like sustain me.
That's so cool.
And it's just like finding the super fans, like I said, like the dorks like me who want that like extra degree of insight into a project, and who want to kind of get music recommendations from a non-algorithmic source, people who are into that, or just people who are like, I like this project, I like this guy, let me support this, let me just give him $5 a month. That seems to have been working a little bit. In addition to that, the scoring work, it's great. If you can get it, to all the young musicians out there, try and go find your film friends and just like try and help them out.
Yeah.
Because there's still money over there. That has been my income for the last couple months, is like focusing on those two films. And then in addition to all of that, I am a public school substitute teacher in the city of Chicago. And basically I just have to work once every 120 days and I get to stay active. So whenever things get a little thin, I'm headed back to the classroom.
Yeah.
And I haven't been working in schools like very much this school year so far, just because the scoring work did pick up. But I would recommend substitute teaching to anybody who is particularly a touring musician, because I think if you're a touring musician, I think you can handle it. It's pretty chaotic. Like you have to have a pretty high stimulation threshold, but it's super flexible, and city schools need help. They like need people, and they need bodies. Like they need people who can just be there. And like so much of these kids' curriculum now is on devices. And so I think that being a substitute teacher, like I don't have a master's degree. I don't have like a, you know, I'm not like certified as like anything more than a provisional sub, but it's a good gig and it's super flexible, and the fulfillment is far beyond anything I've encountered in like teaching Comcast employees to throw axes, for example. But honestly, like we'll see what happens with these films, and if I'm able to kind of roll that into more film work, I'm really hoping I will be able to. But I always have that to sort of fall back on.
Yeah, thank you for letting me ask about that. It's stuff that feels sometimes taboo to talk about because one of the struggles with being a songwriter or having a project or being in a band is that you're feeling the pressure to present yourself as like fully together and fully successful at all times. And every working musician I know is struggling, especially with the financial stuff and trying to figure out like, uh, how am I making rent? And some of us have the privilege of a decent day job. Some of us have partners or spouses that have like a money job, and that can make it work. And so I just really appreciate you sharing about your experience there. It's super interesting to me personally because there's so many parallels between your life and my life, right?
Yeah, I think there's definitely sort of like a taboo there, and I think that it's just important to talk about it, to like shine a light on it for folks who want to support bands and like sort of show them the best way, and to also just like let kids know, kids who are coming up in the scene, like you absolutely can do this. And also like bigger picture, not in the way that like, oh, you need to like second guess yourself or anything, more just like there really might not be any money there, like for real.
Mhm.
And if that's going to be a problem for you, like this is not the path. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what like you should not do a career in the arts if like that is a
You're trying to bring home
huge
the bacon. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I weirdly, actually, Denver again. I had this conversation with this kid at Denver, this high school kid who saw us open for Holy Fawn at Meow Wolf.
Meow
Yeah.
Wolf, yeah.
Wonderful
Sold out show.
Loved it.
Coolest venue we've ever played. I mean, visually, like incredible.
There was
Yeah.
a really buff Satan like running towards like on the wall.
I don't remember that.
No, dude, I like kind of had a strange out of body experience where I'm listening to Holy Fawn, one of my favorite bands of all time, and they're in this really loud, heavy, pretty section. That's their thing. And then the devil is running at me, and I look over and I'm like, where am I? What's going on?
I literally have a video on my phone of the exact effect you're talking about. I was like, this is amazing, because like for our set it was like just like weird like mushroomy stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like this is
Botanical.
cool. This is not really our vibe, but but very cool visually. And then when the buff sprinting Satan was like, I was like, yo, this lighting designer needs to just join the tour.
Yeah.
Now. Like, he's going to need to do the rest of the country with us.
But you were talking about the conversation you had with the kid.
Yeah, I had a conversation at the merch table with a like a kid in high school who came up and was like, who literally just asked me point blank, like how do I be you guys? Like, how do I get this job? And I was like, I said what I just said a moment ago, which is like, okay, you absolutely can. And like, just so you know, this is not our job. Like, I know this looks crazy because like this is sold out right now. And like, everyone in our band works when we're not on tour. Everyone in Holy Fawn works when they're not on tour. Ryan makes coffee. I was working in coffee at the same time. Ryan was working in coffee. We drank a lot of coffee all over the US together and had a beautiful time doing it. But it's tough, like at all levels. And that's always been the case. Like every tour we've done, every band we've been direct support for has like side gigs, you know, bands that are like legendary in spaces, bands that have like sold records, bands that have been overseas to do festivals. Like it's hard to find the money, but also it's super, super possible. I think that like my sort of dive into the world of YouTube, one of the things that I'm really grateful for that it showed me is like, yeah, I can write songs. Yeah, I can make cool art. What I never really thought about is like, I have a skill set that like artistically, when I'm working on my art, I never want to make any sacrifices. I want to make exactly what I want to make. But like, if I am willing to just lighten up a little bit and stop being such a snob about everything, I have a skill set that I can commodify in a way that allows me to spend my time doing something I'm more interested in than like dragging rugs around the back of a semi truck, you know? And not to say that I didn't learn a lot at that job too, but like, I am not a big buff. You wouldn't mistake me for a big buff Satan if I was running at you at that show. And so I shouldn't be moving the rugs, you know? I've put so much time into like just playing the guitar, thinking about tone, thinking about like sound design, thinking about like the way sounds work together to accomplish evoking emotion or supporting a narrative. And it's like, what if I put in the work and feel uncomfortable and like make myself vulnerable enough to like ask somebody for a shot? Then that has led to me getting to apply those skills to film, which like I never thought that I would really do. In fact, like 10 years ago, I think I was like specifically not that interested in scoring and composition because I was just like, nah, I need to save it all for like the band. I need to do my exact thing or nothing else. It's like you could totally do your exact thing and other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like, but it's you have to find a way to make the time, and there's always trade-offs, and it's tough. But I think that just, I don't know, I feel like I've encountered a lot of musicians in my time doing it who do their thing very, very, very well, their exact thing very, very well. And they don't seem to have interest in like doing anything adjacent to that thing that isn't exactly that thing. And if that's really how you feel, then that's cool. Like if you're like a total, like totally fixated on your project or this one album you have to make, like I respect that. And I have been in that space, but I also just love making music with people. And as I've gotten older, I think I've just become less of a snob, and I'm just like more down to do anything that's musical before bussing more tables or whatever it may be, you know, because there are opportunities, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm still holding on to a little bit of the snobbery because like I'm not learning, you know, Jimmy Buffett covers or anything. Like no disrespect to the man, but I'm not doing that.
That's right.
Like we all have our line, and I just encourage people to like find the degree to which they are willing to kind of, I don't know, like just lighten up about their like creative boundaries a little bit and explore like other stuff, do other stuff, because like if you do enough of it, like you might be able to assemble like a career in art, which is crazy. And that's super hard, but I don't know. I think, go ahead. Sorry.
There's something like, you're talking about kind of like the de-snobbery, but I think there's a deeper thing there too. That's something like I don't know, hope or something, or optimism that that you can make this work in ways that like aren't degrading to you. Speaking personally, I have such a like content aversion kind of impulse where, and I've found this really interesting in following Bi-Fi, because everything you've put out I find really compelling and just like totally you also. And that's gotten my wheels spinning, because it's like, okay, I've been holding this stuff so preciously, and it's like all I have time for is like the songs I write or whatever. And like you said, maybe there's a time for that, but I think there's an emotional maturity to kind of holding things a bit more loosely. It's like, is it really the end of the world if I stream myself on Twitch, like producing a song for an hour or whatever? It's like, what do I lose? Virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Besides,
Yeah, no, I really I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you like engaging with the content and checking it out, because like this, like I absolutely feel you. Like I have, in many ways, I have like an aversion, like an allergy to
Yeah.
making content, but like sort of just letting go of just a little bit of the snobbery, like opened my mind in a lot of ways, that like what you're seeing is the business end of like a couple years of really thinking about the current sort of media spaces, and like how can I contribute in a way that won't drive me nuts to do
Yeah.
it. And like I've been pretty active on Instagram and TikTok, like, but the only reason I'm able to do that, because I really don't like Instagram and TikTok. Like I don't like being on there. I don't
Right.
find that I'm finding cool stuff there. Like it's not really a space I want to be. When I was super honest about like with myself about the fact that like I do love YouTube, and while I have like I do have my like my millennial, like I don't want to be perceived as a YouTuber thing, like my armor kind of going up. When I really dig into that, I'm like why don't I want to be perceived as like a multimedia artist who found a way to make a living? Like
Yeah.
what is right, like Jack Conte is the man. Like why did I think like
Yeah.
YouTubers were so whack 10 years ago? I don't know why I thought that. And then once I make that sort of more committed, more permanent relative permanence, like content in a space that I actually engage with, and in a space that I actually derive value from, and an ecosystem I want to contribute back into, I have then learned how to make videos. So then I'm just like chopping vertical chunks out of that and just throwing it in the other places. And it's like, it's working because I can hit the consistency that I need to, that I was never able to hit a couple years ago, like managing that stuff for Caracara, because I wanted every single piece of everything that was everywhere to be reflective of like the total breadth of what we are, and like what we have to offer, and like what
Right.
we stand for. And yeah, I just like really interrogated those feelings, and like was like why do I feel this way? Which are the platforms that I would like to keep at arm's length, and where do I feel there's actual like value I can build? And yeah, I think that like if you're interested in live streaming your songwriting process, I think absolutely do that, because I don't really know much about Twitch, but I follow very closely a handful of producers. I catch their stream when it gets thrown over to YouTube, but like Sarah Too Ill is one, Kaylin Ellis is one, both more in like the hip hop jazzy beat making lanes, but they're absolutely crushing it doing live streams, and their albums do great because they have a lot of fans. Their fans are, they probably lean more like fans of both their artwork and them as producers, but like, do I like that rules also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with
Like
that.
people liking your art is people liking your
Yes.
art, and they also like Kaylin Ellis was one of my top 5 like most listened to records this year. That was a nice surprise, because like I found him because he was just streaming beat
That's
making
cool.
sessions, and yeah, that's a space where I think people, they think about like, oh, I need to have this much virality or this many eyes on me, and in all these platforms that I don't understand, I can't wrap my head around. There are ways to like do, the thing you want to do, and then just adjust it to go other. I don't care about doing TikTok or Instagram because I don't care about making vertical videos on my phone. I would like to learn like very basic filmmaking stuff, and I would like to make longer form stuff that lives on the platform that I like. And that really like was the revelation I needed to just like get me behind some type of camera. And then I figured that out. And then like once the YouTubes look like I want them to, I throw them everywhere else,
Yeah, that's good,
So
man.
awesome.
Well, I want to ask about your songwriting process, and also where that instinct, compulsion, uncontrollable desire to make music, where's that come from for you? So a question that I like to ask a lot is, why do you write songs?
I'm not sure. I was thinking about this one ahead of time, and like, I remember I got a guitar when I was in second grade, and like I figured out the song Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz. Like that was my first, yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and it's bar chord central, and
Yeah.
like find me a cooler guy than Leonard Kravitz, for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leonard, never even conceived of his name being Leonard.
That's I don't remember which stand up I just stole that from, but that is not my own original. It's not my own original content identifying him by his real name. But I remember like figuring that song out by ear, and like I knew from a very young age that I like don't have a ton of interest in like learning other people's music. Like
Same.
I would love to hear it. I would love to talk about it. I would love to love it, but I don't care if I can play it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But the guitar always really drew me, and from just as like young as I can remember, I was just like using it as more of like a tool, I think, like to express whatever it was that I wanted to express. And I think that from like high school onward up through New Preoccupations, the Caracara record, I think that it was really just like a tool that I used to like underline writing lyrics. Like I felt like I had something to say. I felt like I had sort of internal monologues that I wanted to externalize in one way or another. And I wanted to make them thematic. I wanted to make them dynamic. I wanted to make them sort of feel like a journey. I remember like all the music that I grew up on, tons of different genres, but it was all very like dynamic. Like I've always enjoyed like albums that feel like once you're done, you're like, man, like I just took a trip with that artist. You know, I just like really went on a journey with them. They took me places I didn't expect them to. And I really wanted to do that. I wanted to like tell full stories. And I think it's only been like since the pandemic and like since getting New Preoccupations kind of off my chest in a way that I feel a little bit like okay with saying less lyrically, like with stepping back from the lyrics. And I feel more in touch with, I think through learning a lot of stuff about production, I think I've just become more acquainted and, dare I say, a bit more fluent in the language of the music itself, and not needing to like say words on top of it to get the point across. But I still love songs with vocals. And so I've had a lot of fun with this new project, like collaborating with other vocalists, because in a way it feels like almost like a relief, like to let somebody else do what I think of as the hard part, like what has always felt like the hard but necessary part for me, the part of like writing the lyrics and like making the song say the thing I want it to say, to more say everything I want to say musically first, and then just like kind of let somebody else interpret that. Like it always feels a little scary to send off like a instrumental, and every single one I've gotten back has been like not what I expected and way cooler than I thought it was going to be, and like very exciting. And
Nice.
And so I guess that's a really long-winded way to not answer your question at all, but I don't know. I think like, to me, I have a hard time saying like why I write songs, because I really think this is why I sort of needed to find some type of way to make music my job, because like I don't know that there's like an alternative available to me. Like they're getting written in my head even when I'm like roasting coffee all day.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just a matter of if I can make the time and the space to like figure out how to get them out of myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It seems to me that you feel more free now that New Preoccupations is out there. And New Preoccupations was a lot of your story with finding sobriety, right? And so there's a clear narrative of like, it's autobiographical, it's me. There's some incredible, the whole discography, there's some incredible lyrics. But I have a question about some of those lyrics. Why do you feel like you're drawn to mythology and religion and like religious language or mythological sort of larger than life pictures and images? Why is that something that you have been drawn to and used in your lyrics?
So I really appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you like listening deeply and like picking up on those themes and stuff, because this is like something like mythology in particular is something that I really have written about a lot over the years. And I've spoken about this before, but I have, I think, an update on my perspective on it.
Nice.
I've always found like mythology to be very romantic, like the idea of a story or a narrative having like such staying power and endurance that it can sort of be reapplied and people can project themselves into it. And like, I think probably the most like blatant example of me doing it is the song New Chemical Hades. It's just an extended metaphor for Theseus's ship. And I think that, yeah, I just sort of always like the idea of like, when you're rebuilding something, at what point does it become a new thing? That's something I've thought about a lot, and I like how that just like maps onto so many different stories, so many different perspectives. My sort of updated take on this is that I do think there was a lot of ego in it for me, always. I think that like projecting yourself into this, projecting your sick, depressed, addicted self into the stars, which is like what I did in the song Vulpecula on the first record, like, is looking back, I think it was me like trying to make meaning where there wasn't any. New Chemical Hades has this lyric, "I have become too apocalyptic for my friends to want me around." That's like a real thing, like that, you know, I wrote that like following Trump won and like the Women's March, and just like I was just like drinking myself into a stupor every night because I just couldn't handle.
It's like numbing out existence.
Yeah, and I couldn't, I was realizing, particularly surrounding like the Women's March in 2016, I was like, I was just so disappointed in myself that I had been so unaware of so much suffering that was happening. I think like I had a real naive understanding of like the level of suffering that was like happening in the world around me. And in order to deal with that, I just drank all the time and really like leaned into this kind of like, I don't know, this trouble. Like I have a lot of like troubled male role models, you know, like I love Anthony Bourdain, I love Paul Westerberg. Like these are my guys. I'm like my camera is being held up by a Nelson Algren book right now. Like I love these fucked up guys, and like sorry, that was it. But I think it's the addict's tendency to kind of project all this meaning into like all this, you know, you do see beauty in like dark, disgusting, dismal places when you're in that space, for sure. And I don't take any of that back. I don't like regret writing any of that, and I don't regret doing anything. Like I feel very lucky to have had a very, what we might call like a pretty shallow bottom, where like I was able to kind of get a hold of myself before things really got bad. But as I look back on it now, like I'm coming up on 6 years sober, and it just feels like I was really hiding amongst the most grandiose stories I could. You know, I was trying to like Vulpecula, I think is like low key hot take, I think is the most underrated Caracara song. It's like a song about like addicts who are nodding off together in bed and like confusing like the cigarette burns in the bedding with like the light poking through cigarette holes in the sheets, like for like the constellations in the sky. And like they're talking about how like they're basically mythological characters together in this like, and I've felt all those things, and I've like lived a lot of the moments that I talk about in lyrics. And also some of that shit, when I listen back to it now, I'm just like, man, like this is like, you're really putting a bow on your darkest moments, you know? And I think there's a bit of it in New Preoccupations, mostly in the title. Like the title is short
the
form.
gods descend.
Yeah, it's called New Preoccupations as the Gods Descend, and it's just about like me sort of feeling like the world was ending. I mean, we ended up recording that album in April of 2020, so like we were all sheltering in place together. Like Will Yip was in there with us, and that's how we got that record made. And it just felt like everything was like maybe finally collapsing for real. And at that time, I was already sober when we made that record, but like throughout most of the songwriting for that, I was like very much still in active addiction. I just so caught up in like in imagining my role in everything is so grandiose, and imagining mapping and just making astral projections, you know, like onto everything. Like everything was like a bigger, more beautiful story. Like I wasn't like drunk in the car on the way to, you know, move rugs around all day at 9 a.m. because like I was a dark addict in a sad place. I was like at this one particular point in my like epic hero's journey, and looking back like from a more stable point of sobriety, like it just like, I don't know, it feels like there was a lot more ego in it than I ever cared to admit at the time.
What does meaning making look like for you now? If you're not mapping these like larger than life, you're the hero in the middle of the hero's journey, a person does need to make some sense about the things that happen to them and the choices that they make. So what do you feel like now in the spot that you're in that sounds more stable and more healthsome and maybe a little bit more humble in a good way? What does meaning making look like for you?
During all of that time that I just spoke about, I was still like making music I'm very proud of, and that like a lot of people have like related to. I'm not saying that any of that music was like overly egotistic or like fraudulent in any way. I am saying that like I kind of missed the ride in a lot of ways, like because I was so caught up in my own shit, and I was so either drunk or hungover and future surfing, like always future surfing, always thinking about like what is the next thing. Like, yeah, we're making this now, but like what access to tours is that going to get us? You know, like who's going to listen to this? Like, yeah, we're on this cool label doing this now, but like what are we going to be able to do next? Like, how are we going to like, you know, where is the next buzz going to come from in one way or another? And I think other than like being very like physically in a much better place now, I think I'm still spending a lot of my time like focusing on the art, but like it's for the art's sake, and it's for my own sake first, because like I love to do it. I want to do it as much as possible, and I'm trying to not need it to be anything more than it is. I'm more willing to like ditch some of the snobbery so that I can make the process sustainable, so that I can make it like my everyday, you know? Because like speaking about like those earlier records, it was really like there was like nothing sustainable about any of that. Like any of all the energy that like went into writing those was all like, I'll get my shit together after this comes out.
Right.
Because once this comes out, we're going to be good. We're going to be smooth sailing. Like they'll hear this and like they're going to be just like mobbing us and throwing Grammys in our face, you know? And like when the record came out and it was still hard for us to make ends meet and hustle like everybody else has to, there's no part of me that like feels like cheated or wronged or entitled to that. You know, it was never like that. It was just more like, okay, well then what's next? Like, let's try again. Like, let's do another version of the same hustle. Like, and I think that the confluence of the pandemic mixed with us not being able to tour for a long time and then putting out a record and getting to like do all the touring I ever dreamed of, but like doing it sober, which I never imagined I would do, like really helped me like focus in on like, oh, like I don't need to always care about the next step. I don't need to like imagine this as bigger than it is for it to be the thing I love, because like I have so like through ego or through social media or through like marginal success or whatever, I have so just like inflated the it that is the thing I love into this whole huge crazy thing that is like, I don't even know if there is like a level that we could get to where I would be satisfied in this mindset, because
Right.
it has nothing to do with like wanting a certain amount of like praise or critical acclaim or money or anything like that. It's like I want to connect with the maximum number of people possible, and like we make a ton of different genres, so I see no reason why that can't be every single person on this earth. Let's keep, you know what I mean? And
That's right.
like, and what's that going to leave me with? Just like not enough time to actually engage with anyone.
So the communal relational aspect of making music has an immediate feedback loop when you're in a rock band and you're playing shows, because you've got that positive feedback loop with the other folks in your band, and then you've got that feedback loop with the people that you're playing live to. I want to ask about, what do you think community looks like in this new sort of iteration of your life and your creative process that you're in?
I'm definitely still figuring that out. A thing I've struggled a lot with since stopping drinking when I'm not on tour or playing shows is like how to make friends and how to like firm up relationships, because that was like bonding over drinks thing was like absolutely my go-to. One of the big aspects of this project is like, there are so many people that I've met making music over the years that I have thought like I would love to collaborate with that person, but like when and where and why and how. A big sort of way that I've engaged my kind of like pre-existing community, especially of music people, is like opening up to broader collaborations and reaching out to all those people. You know, I have a song coming out. I think it's probably going to come out in March. The vocals are from Devin from Delta Sleep.
Oh, nice.
Like, and then the song I'm dropping in January is like a new friend that I made in Chicago, who is this incredibly talented rapper and vocalist who I literally just like slid into his DMs because I thought his music was good.
Yeah.
And now we're like kind of friends. It's a way like through music, whether it's like sliding into somebody's DMs cold and then just inviting them over to record some vocals, like through music, I'm like comfortable engaging with people in a way that like I struggle to in other contexts without alcohol. And so I think that like Buying Fireworks in Indiana like kind of allows me to double down on a lot of the community that I've built over like 10 years touring and being in different bands, and like just reconnect with people and make something instead of just like reconnect for the sake of chatting, like to be like, listen, this is really how I connect. Like making music with people is how I connect. And this also goes back to sort of what we were talking about earlier about like, it's not the exact thing that I would like it to be. Like I would always prefer to be like in the room. And that's why I hope to make like travel a part of this, so I can get out there and like be in the room with people and like work together and feel that immediate feedback loop that you get from being in a band or just like sitting and playing guitars with a homie, you know? These sort of like more remote collaborations or just like handing over a track for somebody else to do vocals on, like that isn't always like exactly how I would love it to go. But like I would so much rather do that than not do it, you know?
Right.
For
and
sure.
just embracing that like for the moment I seem to be at a time where like I have great friends all over the country that I get to see here and there. I need to figure out like what showing up every day looks like though. And I need to figure out like what my process is, both musically and just in terms of like living and like, you know, how do I fill my hours? Cause like whether it was when I was drinking or whether it's like how kind of Caracara does things, it's like we do it all for these like exclamation point moments. We have these like short chapters of like, we get to do the thing, you know, and it's 100% what we hoped it would be. And then it has to go away for a while.
Yeah.
And what I'm like, I'm just trying to live at a 6, but like always you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Through the best friends I've made in Chicago since I moved here have been through music. Like that is the way that I like connect with people now. Like my homie Brock Mende is the guy who like finishes up mixes on all my tracks for me. And I met him and like went to his studio for the first time under the guise of like, I need a mix engineer, you know? But I had definitely checked out his socials. I knew we were going to be boys. That's why I picked the man.
Yeah.
So like, just like being honest with myself that like, maybe that's what I need to do to find friends. 10 years ago, I would have been like, I'm going to find out like which bar all the people in the scene hang at. And then I'm just going to like be a dude who's there. And that worked, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not working anymore.
Yeah. Well, brother, I appreciate so much your thoughtfulness. You think deeply about all this stuff, and I appreciate your ambition, and I celebrate your ambition to have an outlet for yourself and also to do stuff with other people, be someone who is devoting their lives, as much of their lives as they can, to beautiful music and helping other people now with the filmmaking stuff, helping other people make beautiful films. Like, I love all that, man. I'm rooting for you. And I really want, I certainly want another Caracara record, but like, I also want you just to feel that sense of fulfillment that like, you're doing as much as you can to redeem your days, not only creatively, but then I want that like sense of centering and just like I'm in the right spot and the right time. I'm not future surfing anymore. I'm here. You know what I mean? I want all that for you. So thanks for being vulnerable, talking about everything that you've talked about. And I just love you.
Absolutely. Well, I love you too. I love y'all. And I feel like a great way for me to sum up the long tangents I've taken you on is like, you will absolutely get another Caracara record.
Good.
And I won't perish if it doesn't happen in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
You know?
Praise be. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm trying to do a track with y'all too.
Yes,
please.
please.
Do a track with the owl.
Yeah, let's go. Nikki, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was thinking this thing that kept popping up as you were talking, Will, is like there, and I relate to this. There's a way of creating where it's like, if I don't make this thing, I'm going to die. And then there's a redeemed, I think, healthier thing that I've been more interested in lately is like, how can I spend as much of my life doing a thing that I can't help but do? Like how can I make the process like the big thing instead of like this kind of pie in the sky final product, you know, which is still really important to me, but I've been a lot more interested in the process and the inherent kind of meaningfulness of just like getting to do the work and all the beautiful things that come along with it.
I relate to the way you phrase that so much. I'm still very results driven. I still want to make the thing, whether it's working on these films or like new Caracara music or my music. I'm still very excited for it to get put out. I want to see it as a thing. I want to see how it does in the world. I still feel very results driven, but like especially if you're a creative, like almost your entire life is the process. And like being only fueled by those results is just like, it's so high stakes. That's not why you fell in love with it in the first place. Like you picked up a guitar not because you wanted to like put out a record that like got 100 million streams. Like, I don't know about you, but I picked up a guitar long before streams were a thing. Hey.
Yeah. Hey.
I picked, I just wanted to do it, and I still just want to do it. And it can be hard to remember that, but like, I think whatever sort of way you find to like, just like love your own process and be happy, like, while you're doing the thing that will lead to like the result, like that'll just make the result all the more like pleasant when it does super well, and pleasant if it doesn't do well at all, because who cares, because like you had a great time making it,
It's a bonus if it does well.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, all right, I'm gonna sign us off. You have been listening to the Holy Fool podcast. Holy Fool is a community of artists and patrons based in Denver, Colorado, who strive to hold all things in common. We especially want to support working musicians who are trying to figure out the financial aspect of making art and doing music. We have been joined by our friend Will Lindsay, who's in the band Caracara, and Buying Fireworks in Indiana. Thank you so much, Will, for being here. Thanks to Nick, my co-host. Peace out, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Love y'all.
Love you.